The Battle of High Bridge refers to two engagements fought on April 6, 1865 and April 7, 1865, near the end of the Appomattox Campaign of the American Civil War, about 4 miles northeast of Farmville, Virginia. The first battle is often the one identified as the Battle of High Bridge. On April 6, 1865, Confederate cavalry under Major General Thomas L. Rosso fought stubbornly to secure the South Side Railroad's High Bridge and Lower Wagon Bridge over the Appomattox River near Farmville, Virginia. A large Union Army raiding party intended to destroy the bridges to prevent the Confederate Army from crossing back to the north side of the river. Both sides had several officers killed and wounded. The Union force suffered 42 killed and wounded. The entire surviving Union force of about 800 men was captured. The Confederates suffered about 100 casualties. Union Colonel Theodore Reed and Confederate Colonel Reuben B. Boston were killed. Union Colonel Francis Washburn and Confederate Colonel James Deering were mortally wounded in the engagement. On April 7, 1865, Confederate Lieutenant General James Longstreet's rearguard attempted to burn the bridges that the Confederates had saved the day before in order to prevent Union forces from following them across. Troops of the Union Second Corps fought the Confederates assigned to burn the bridges in an effort to drive off the Confederates and save the bridges. Part of the railroad bridge burned and was rendered unusable, but Union forces were able to save the wagon bridge over which the Second Corps crossed in pursuit of General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. Failure to destroy this bridge enabled Union forces to catch up with the Confederates north of the Appomattox River at Cumberland Church, 3 miles north of Farmville. Background: High Bridge, 2,500 feet long and 126 feet high, was the crossing of the South Side Railroad over the Appomattox River and its floodplain, 4 miles northeast of Farmville, Virginia. A wooden bridge for wagons was located below the railroad bridge. During the retreat of Confederate General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia during the Appomattox Campaign, the Confederates had moved north of the river, except for a rearguard provided by Longstreet's 1st Corps at Rice's Station on the southern bank. The bridges had to be protected on April 6 and then destroyed on April 7 to delay the pursuit of the Confederates by the Union Army under Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant. On April 6, Longstreet dispatched 1,200 Confederate cavalry under Major General Thomas L. Rosso to protect the bridges from Union raiders. Union Major General Edward Ord, commanding the Army of the James, sent about 900 men under Colonel Theodore Reed to burn the bridge. This force consisted of the 123rd Ohio Infantry and the 54th Pennsylvania Infantry, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Horace Kellogg of the 123rd Ohio, and 3 companies of the 4th Massachusetts Cavalry under Colonel Francis Washburn. Battles. While Washburn prepared to set fire to the bridge, 3 brigades of Confederate cavalrymen arrived and conducted a dismounted attack against the Union infantry, which was waiting near the Watson farmhouse, about half-mile to the south. Hearing sounds of battle, Washburn and his men rejoined the infantry, and unaware that he was facing 2 divisions of cavalry, Reed ordered a mounted charge by the 4th Massachusetts. The ferocious charge forced through the Confederate line of Brigadier General Thomas T. Munford and dissolved into hand-to-hand combat. Reed exchanged gunfire with Confederate James Deering during the fighting and was killed. Deering was mortally wounded and died on April 22. Washburn was also mortally wounded. The Confederates counterattacked and separated the cavalry from their supporting infantry. After another attack, the Union troopers were surrounded, and all were killed, wounded, or captured. Colonel Reuben B. Boston of the 5th Virginia Cavalry was killed in the attack. The survivors of the Confederate Second Corps, under Major General John B. Gordon, escaped from their defeat at the Battle of Sailor's Creek and crossed the High Bridge to the north side of the river, while Major General William Mahone's division secured the bridge. The rest of Lee's army moved on to Farmville and a rendezvous with trains of rations. Early on April 7, while Mahone's men were attempting to set fire to the High Bridge and Wagon Bridge, the Union Second Corps, commanded by Major General Andrew A. Humphreys, arrived on the scene. Humphreys's 2nd Division under Brigadier General Francis C. Barlow, including the 19th Maine Volunteer Infantry Regiment, charged the burning structure and saved a large section of the railroad bridge, preventing major damage. They crossed the lower Wagon Bridge to move on Lee's flank and force the hungry Confederates to resume their retreat before reprovisioning themselves. Aftermath. Together, the battles at High Bridge were tactically inconclusive. Despite the 847 Union casualties versus only about 100 Confederate in the first battle, Lee was forced to continue his march to the west under pressure, depriving some of his men the opportunity to eat the Farmville rations they had waited so long to receive. Their next stop would be Appomattox Station, 25 miles west, where a ration train was waiting. On the night of April 7, Lee received from Grant a letter proposing that the Army of Northern Virginia should surrender. Lee demurred, retaining one last hope that his army could get to Appomattox Station before he was trapped. He returned a non-committal letter asking about the surrender terms. Unconditional surrender, Grant might propose.